thank you for the opportunity to come, Stephen. It's always great to be here at CEDA, and Lee as well. Thank you for your collective leadership and your opportunity to challenge state and nation on the things that matter. And economic reform is obviously a critical issue that we are facing. And I do note, you did note a number of ministers weren't here. Well, that's because they're busy. Having said that, I do know a number of the public service are here, so we seem to have the equation around the wrong way. No, not at all. Fantastic to have the public service here. Thank you. I love an engaged public sector. And in fact, I should acknowledge my good friend Victor Dominello, the minister who is here, doing an outstanding job, did a fantastic job in multiculturalism. He's leading the reform of government in regulation and innovation, and his agenda is packed, and so it's great to have him here. Also the head of Premiers, Blair Comley, and the recently joined Rob Whitfield. And I think in Blair Comley and Rob Whitfield, many of you obviously know, I unashamedly say now that New South Wales has the strongest public sector leadership in the country, and it's reflected as well across the senior team. The New South Wales public sector is on the move, and the talent that's coming I think is first class, and we're all very lucky to have them here. I also note today is the day my daughter comes back, and I think last time I spoke to you it was just in the midst of a little election campaign, or just before it. We spoke about a transaction called Poles and Wires. The good news is that I managed in my family, Kelly, to kind of keep that pretty shielded. My family did see some of the ads, but my 18-year-old daughter, you'd be pleased to know, 10 days before the election said, "Dad, can you just tell me what on earth is Poles and Wires, and what are you doing to them?" Because something is happening, and it's on my Facebook. I said, "I'm sorry. Sorry, Laura, to disrupt your Facebook." Anyway, you don't have to worry about it. And on that, I mean, the other thing, the Minister for Energy, Anthony Roberts, told me about a week before the election, he had someone come up to him and say, "Look, we like you, we want to vote for you, but why are you selling Coles and Myers?" So anyway, I mean, people have different things. They pay attention to different things in the campaign. The good thing is she liked Robbo, so that was good. So today is, I think, an opportunity. This is not quite what you would normally bring to a CEDA speech, but it's the perfect time to do it. Because as I've sat back and looked, I have become excited about what is happening and where New South Wales is going, but often haven't had the chance to sit and reflect in a collective basis and say, well, what does this actually look like, and where are we going? And this campaign, which we are starting today, a broad public information campaign, I mean, as you can see, we're building. It's time to build tomorrow's Sydney. Well, I don't know whether anyone's got it, but that's exactly what is going on here in this great city of ours. And as we go through it, I think that you'll find it is an incredible thing that is happening right before our eyes. And the thing about this is, yes, there is a campaign and it's information that's come. Ultimately, we want the public to know every day what is happening, what the impacts might be on them personally. So public transport routes, how long this project and this particular segment is going to last for. There'll be as much information as we possibly can. It's almost like a good marriage. The more you communicate, the better, and obviously you can't over-communicate. And that's what we'll be trying to do as part of this campaign. But at its core is this sense that all of us, may well have missed in the busyness of our intros in life, that we are actually right now building tomorrow's Sydney. A moment I think all of us have waited for a long time. And what does that kind of look like? I think importantly, as part of that, we need to understand why they are happening, how, and importantly, what. How does that look? So that's what I want to run through today, to give you a sense. The first thing, I don't need to remind you, and yeah, that's it. I don't need to remind you, when you look at that, how lucky are we? I mean, we live in one of the greatest cities in the world, and those that have had the chance to travel and those that have had the chance to work overseas, you know it. And when you look at this vision, it's incredible. The harbour, you can just see across the coast, beaches, you can see the harbour bridge, this incredible vista that we are lucky enough to call Sydney. It's something that's blessed with diverse multicultural communities. It's rich in culture, it's rich in history, and rich in beauty. And I don't think it's something that we should take for granted. Having said that, there are challenges. And as the challenges are starting to come, there's a question of what we have to do. The train platforms, the congestion, the forecasts say that between 2017 and 2024, our trains start to get to full capacity. And as they have that full capacity, there's a question of, those that travel in the morning commute know that congestion is a factor. So how do we start to relieve it? But that is something that is obviously confronting us on a daily basis. It also is going to be increasing. And by 2031, the population is going to increase by about 2 million. Now, in that context, the challenges are becoming more. And all of us know this intuitively, but it's quite significant. An extra 2 million, including 1 million extra people in Western Sydney. It also is concentrated predominantly in Sydney. And in that context at the moment, there's about 60% of New South Wales that lives in Sydney, and that is going to grow over the coming years to get towards 78.4%. So close to 80% of the population is going to sit there. Now, that effectively means that the congestion in this great city is almost unprecedented in what we are going to face. So what do we do? Because the congestion is not only on the trains, it's also across our motorways. And whether it be the M4 or the M5 or any of the key arterials into the city, congestion is gripping us. And that is something that impacts our daily life. And if we don't take action in relation to that congestion, the economic forecasts, and there's various assumptions, they show that it's expected to go from about $8 billion to $29 billion over the next 20 years. That's just the cost, if you like, the cost of doing nothing. And that was something that I didn't want to entertain. And not only does the congestion impact us, but as the population comes and the existing strains on our hospitals and schools, we have a lot to do. So what have we done? Well, the important thing we've done is we have started. And that is the great story that I want to tell in relation to this. The cranes you can see are reflective of the work that is going on across this city and just as much across the state. And I do want to pause on this because we have started to act, but it hasn't come by chance. And I think that's often one of the things that get lost in a daily political discourse. You don't understand necessarily what a long-term strategy has been and how many steps have taken you to this particular point in time before we launch. But as we came into government, there's a number of things that we had to face. We faced where the New South Wales economy was. It was running last. We had a budget, significant and increasing budget deficit, significant structural deficit. We had debt right against our AAA levels. We had a huge infrastructure backlog, and we had to take a range of measures. And that's exactly what we've done. We've started with the budget. We need to get that into a position that we've got capacity and fiscal flexibility. So we constrained expenses in a way that I think was fair and sensible. We got expenditure growth from 7% down to under 4%. We've put it under revenue growth. At the same time, as we've done that, we have also, through a range of measures in that, there's a number of schemes that came with it, but ultimately what we did was control expenditure. That got to a position where we also wanted to invest in the drivers of the economy. So while there's fiscal responsibility in terms of our budget position, we did not want the economy to stop. In fact, the opposite. We wanted to invest and drive. And we did that through investment in housing, range of measures we did in housing, in infrastructure and competitiveness, trying to make it competitive to do business, taking away payroll tax for new businesses as an example. The workers' comp reforms, providing opportunities to more money for the most injured workers, but also reduced premiums for businesses. And that has dropped premiums, dropped the cost of doing business in the state. And that collectively has started to work. Now, as the economy has started to move, New South Wales now leads the nation in terms of jobs, growth. We just heard from Kelly, retail sales all these indicators will last. And it'd be pretty simple to forget that where we were to where we are today. That economy has helped to drive the budget, and that has given us a sustainable budget position, but we didn't have the capital required to actually build the infrastructure. And that's where this concept of asset recycling came. So we wanted to do more, we wanted to do it as quickly as we possibly can. And that really has been the key driver for us. You know, we are here, we have an opportunity, well, let's get on with it. Let's get on with it. And the simple way of getting the capital, well, we looked at the balance sheet and we said we could lease these ports, we could lease the desalination plants, we looked at the generators. We can take that capital and we can turn it into new assets. Old assets for new assets. The concept of recycling came in, and that has, I think, provided a framework for the community to understand if we undertake this, well, we have the capacity to finally fund what we need. And that has been, I think, a big development in that. So as we sit here, and obviously as part of the election, we wanted to do more. It wasn't just enough to tread water. It wasn't just enough to walk. We wanted to sprint. We wanted a once-in-a-generation opportunity for this great city. And on the back of the mandate we have received and the funding that provides, having that gone through the Parliament now, the legislation, well, hang on to your hats, because Sydney is going to be very different. And the exciting thing, as I run through this now for you, I just want to give you a visual impact on how that is going to look for us. And bear in mind, the time frame is about over the next 10 years, but each year there is a milestone as we start to go towards it. They're no longer just thoughts, it's no longer just concepts, it's planned, it's underway, and it's funded. And that is something that we should all be very excited about. So let me show you this. This is what is going to happen on the back of this process for tomorrow's Sydney in terms of roads and transport. So you start to get a sense, and that's not me on the banjo, by the way. I don't know whether it is a banjo, but I quite like it. But look, you start to get a concept, and let me show you this, because you start to see the images. But look at the scale and breadth when you start to look at the roads. The first thing we're doing is the West Connects, and you can see that sort of come up. A huge impact across the city, completing effectively the missing links in the motorway system. That is obviously underway, and by 2019, key portions, both the M4 and the M5 side, so stage 1 and 2, will be complete. So that's how quickly, effectively, that is underway. The next one is the gateway to the south. Again, the south of Sydney, there is an extension of the West Connects there, but you can see $300 million program to reduce the critical pinch points in the south of the city. Then there's the Western Harbour Tunnel, which gets underway, and that completes the ring road, if you like. So you have two complete orbitals around the city. That's underway and has a connection into the Northern Beaches link, which works on the back of the Western Harbour Tunnel, the relief across the tunnel and the Eastern Distributor. We then have smart motorways, and the smart motorway, you saw that it's an incredible piece of technology by just being smarter with the entry points for those that are coming into the motorways. Maintaining the flow is the key to reducing that congestion, And the entry points and using the technology to do that significantly reduces congestion and traffic time. That's the first part of the smart motorway. We intend to roll that out beyond. Badgerys Creek roads, I mean, look at the size of this and imagine it. So Badgerys Creek Airport will be opened up and the jobs and associations come with that, but we're doing what hasn't been done before, and that's build the infrastructure first. So build it, provide the capability as the population and the jobs come with it. Then the North Connects, which is again another big missing link, huge impact, particularly into productivity for freight and those trucks that just sort of go up Penedals Road through that, and that is underway. So all of those you can see underway. North Connects, stage 1 and 2 of the West Connects will be done by 2019, and many other programs. So this is a huge start in terms of roads. On the public transport side, a number across it. The Metro extends right across. On the northern beaches, the bus rapid transit is underway. Finally, a kind of dedicated public transport route that comes into the beaches, long term in the link. Sydney CBD light rail, again, a project where our main retail artery of the city is clogged. You can't really put in more buses down. This gives us a 50% more capacity in terms of public transport. It cuts the travel times in half, and it opens up the city. Western Harbour ferries, additional about $100 million are investing in ferries, light rail in the west and Western Sydney rail upgrades. All of these will make a huge difference. The Metro, and importantly, what that does is it gives us 60% more capacity across the existing rail network. So it's not only important in itself in what it does to the key population, but what it does to the entire city and what is required effectively to deal with the congestion that's coming. We're also focusing on health. So we'll have a quick look at what we're doing on the health side. So the health, and one of the things that was just when we came to go, and I do remember it well, as Treasurer opening up and reading some of the particular notes in there, and one of them in terms of health facilities was that most of the health facilities, on average, there are about, more than half of the health facilities are older than 50 years old. So the requirement to upgrade is critical, but also to upgrade in relation to the growth areas. So if population's coming, you need to be ahead of the curve. Which is what we've done. And all of these investments are significant across the city, long overdue. Something like the Westmead redevelopment, our hospital that is a jewel in the system, provides a huge array in terms of child health in particular. $1 billion upgrade is underway there that will make such a massive difference. Huge, exciting opportunities on the health side. We're also focusing in on schools, and there is a particular project in Parramatta that is world class. I'll give you a quick look at that. that's part of the challenge of this as we're growing. I mean, obviously there's a natural constraint of space, and we have to look at how can we be smarter with the space we have and what is happening across the world. And the Department of Education has done a lot of work on this, and what is the best educational space and how do we encourage collaborative learning. And that building will be sort of across the world will be looked at as an example on bringing best practice together. And that's just some of it. There's $1 billion that we have to invest across new schools, particularly in growth areas. Again, getting ahead of that curve as we come with the population. But that is an incredibly exciting project and an example of what is going on. Now, there's only one more video. That's the good news. Mike's home videos, there's one more to go. And the thing about this is that this last one is, you know, in a global city, you've got to have precincts to both to live, to enjoy, to visit. And what is happening across here, I think you'll be amazed when you look at how this city is going to be transformed in terms of our public precincts. So, So that's happening across the city, and in addition to that, there are sports facilities that we'll be upgrading as well. And think about, you know, how that looks and the difference that'll make. The Western Sydney Parklands is incredible parklands, an opportunity to create a green lung in Western Sydney as the growth comes, both in terms of housing, but also the infrastructure and the facilities that are coming, those sort of facilities. And I think we're getting it right in the sense that everything is coming together. We're not only building the roads and the transport, but we also have places to enjoy, places to live, and ultimately places that should reflect a global city. So I think as I conclude, I want you to have that sense that I did. You know, how excited are you? It is something that you cannot help but be excited about. We all love this city. I don't have to sell Sydney to you. You know, it's in our DNA how much we love this incredible city. But over the next 10 years, what you've just seen is not a hope, it is going to be rolled out. And I think for all of us, we've waited too long for this. And I can't think of anything more worthwhile than having the opportunity to be able to deliver all of those projects, first and foremost, because I understand the difference it'll make to people's lives. The capacity to get home quicker to your family, to provide our incredible health staff, our nurses and doctors with the right sort of facilities, to have world-leading schools together with appropriate public transport and roads, sports and cultural facilities. It is something, I think, that Sydney has waited for a long time, and it's happening right now. So very proud to be part of a government that is delivering tomorrow's Sydney. Thank you for your time.